It's the end of the day with Ray. Hello, my friends. Well, you can see on the Sharp Interactive board, I got my storyboard put together for today's episode. Folks, we're going to talk about the mega dealers, the same folks I've been talking about now for about a year and a half on a regular basis. And these are the folks that I believe are above $200 million in revenue. Most of these folks are private equity owned. There's some investment banking ownership. But at the end of the day, they're investment groups putting together conglomerates to go into the marketplace and change the game, change the world, so they can have an end game where everybody gets rich. And I got to ask everybody a question really quick before we get started. You ready? What's changed since 2020? Because when I listen to the marketplace, when I listen to your leaders in the marketplace, it doesn't seem a whole lot has changed since 2020, when in fact the whole entire world has changed so dramatically, especially regarding print. So let's talk about the main players that we're going to talk about here today. And I know there's some other folks out there that are building up some really nice empires, if you will. You know, I talk about my friends at Impact as an example, and we got RJ Young down there in Nashville, and these folks are probably approaching 200 million pretty quick. But today I want to focus on these guys and gals, and I'm going to share with you why I believe the industry isn't getting the appreciation from outside the industry of what the industry's been building over the last decade plus. Let me say that again. The industry is not being appreciated for what it has built over the last plus decade from the folks outside the industry. In other words, all these players out here, I don't know if they have an end game anymore. And I'm sure that when they all meet in their boardrooms, the questions they're asking are a lot harder than they were pre-pandemic. At least I hope they are. They're probably scrutinizing things a whole lot more than they were pre-pandemic. At least I hope they are. But like I said, when I see the videos that are put out there, when I listen to the leaders talking on stage about what they're doing in the marketplace, I get a little bit scared because I don't see a momentum to change the thinking of those outside the industry. Here's why this is important. I believe that the print industry has literally collapsed. It's just not recognized yet, but it's collapsed. I mean, no one is going to print more tomorrow than they do today. We all get that. A3 is slowly going to be replaced with A4s. The whole industry is basically collapsing around us. So in order for it to have any value whatsoever, that value has to come from outsiders. Because you do have customers, right? You do have revenues and profits coming in from those customers. You do have the ability to sell those customers alternative products and services. The problem is, do you have the ability to execute in delivering those other products and services? So that when print does fall off the cliff, you're positioned in a place where the outsiders want to make an investment. And this is a big deal, because investments from within side, that's been going on for a long, long time, and most of those investments from the inside have turned out to be, quite honestly, some pretty big disasters. Let's talk about some of those disasters real quick. Our friends over at Konica Minolta bought All Covered. Folks, I've been talking about All Covered and Konica Minolta and Konica Minolta's financials for 9 quarters. It's just been a bloodbath, right? And I question Konica on All Covered's profitability. What are their real numbers? Those questions are always avoided. Obviously, no one wants to talk about it for some reason. Let's talk about our friends over there at Ricoh and Mindshift. Let's talk about our friends over there at Ricoh and Icon. So Ricoh goes out and buys Mindshift, like Konica went out and bought All Covered. And what did Ricoh do? A couple of years ago, they had these huge impairment charges in excess of $1 billion because Mindshift and Icon kind of didn't work out. Ricoh went and sold back all the business it bought to the dealers. And it wasn't a home run sale, if you know what I mean. So what have we learned from that? I think the greatest thing we should be learning from that is acquisition strategies from within our industry are no longer our future. And in order to get the outsiders to buy us, things have to change. I want you to think about this. It's about the outsiders now buying us. When I say us, I'm talking about the print industry folks. Who are the outsiders that are going to buy you? Because obviously you going out and buying IT services companies didn't really work out. At least the track record's proven it's not working out. Our friends over at Marco have been owned by Northwest Equity Partners since 2015. They're fast approaching 10 years. Why is that thing not able to sell? Why do no outsiders want it? Why do no insiders even want it? I don't think anybody's naive enough to believe that the OEMs are going to run around and start buying up dealers when we see in Konica, getting rid of all of theirs or most of them. I still believe they'll get rid of the rest of them. I still believe Canon will get rid of their direct operations. We saw what Ricoh did with most of theirs. So we got some real struggles going on with inside the industry. An industry that I believe is collapsing based on print. Folks, we got our friends over here at Oval Partners, and this has always been an interesting story to me because they put together this new roll-up called New Charter, which is all IT services companies. I'm going to do a separate episode on that, maybe this week, because I did an episode on New Charter back in March of this year, and then I started looking at them a little bit. There's been some changes over there, and I want to talk through that a little bit, but let's leave that alone for now. But Oval Partners back in 2016 put Flexprint together, right? They call themselves the largest managed print services dealer. I struggle when they say that. I know they probably don't want to hear this. First, I'm going to give them a big congratulations because I do believe here in the United States that Flexprint is probably the largest managed print services organization. I give them that. I think they built a phenomenal platform of managed print service providers. I think as they started to turn these things into more of copier dealership kind of mentality, it went a little bit away from the original vision of being a managed print service provider. Years ago, they were using contract labor and stuff. I think that model made a lot of sense. But today, calling yourself the largest managed print service provider, and I used this as an example before, I'm going to use it again, is like the guy or gal saying they own the most taxi medallions right before Uber and the rideshare industry completely destroyed the taxi industry. It's like telling the world that you're the largest owner of video stores right before Blockbuster went bankrupt and Netflix wiped out that video industry. Managed print services, we all know print's falling off a cliff. I'm sitting here declaring that the whole print industry is pretty much collapsed already. Visual Edge. I don't see Visual Edge as being private equity owned. It looks like there's investment bankers behind that. I believe investment bankers, are a little bit tougher. They have a little bit more scrutiny. I also believe that money costs more. I don't believe it. I know it because you just look at what's going on over there with the interest rates at the Fed. And so as money costs more, what kind of pressures is that going to put on all these folks? But I believe investment bankers have the highest cost of money. UBO. Owned by Centennial, and that was put together back in 2018, And UBO, they're out there, they're talking about how they want to be this IT services company. You can go to their website, listen to them out in the marketplace. But again, what are you trying to build? Are you trying to build a Marco that nobody wants? And I'm telling you, Visual Edge, what are you building? A Marco that nobody wants? Are you building the same thing that Konica and Allcover built, that they still can't even prove to the world that Allcover's profitable? Are you building something that Ricoh and Mindship built that obviously they took this huge impairment charge against because it wasn't working out the way they thought it was? What are you building? Then we got our friends over here at Dex Imaging. This one's near and dear to my heart because, I was the guy that stood on there and did my video in 2018 and said that either Office Depot or Staples would buy a mega dealer. And I had a vision of what that looked like. I will say that it's not coming true the way I envisioned it. As an example, and I've said this before, that when that virus happened back in 2020, I really thought that all those Dex customers would have access to Staples.com immediately. Kind of didn't happen. That always kind of concerned me. I think it was maybe 8 or 9 months ago I did a video and I said I wouldn't be surprised if Sycamore Partners, who owns Staples, told Staples, if you want to sell Dex back to the Doyles, go ahead and do it. I still predict that's a real probable outcome. But Dex, they did win. They had the end game. They sold it to Staples. Now, will Staples decide to unwind that thing and sell it back to the Doyles? Boy, that'd be exciting for the Doyles. I'm sure it would be. But look at what they're doing. They don't talk about IT services. They're focused on print, just like our friends over here at Flexprint. And, you know, they're building, I believe, a heat map. I see Dex Imaging as a major service provider in a marketplace that's quickly grabbing land around the country to make sure they can service and support print equipment, or maybe whatever else. What's the whatever else? Maybe that's what Flexprint's doing. Maybe Flexprint realizes, hey, print will fall off the cliff, but we'll have all these offices across the country. We could service something else. You know, I talk a lot about Care AR, that product by Xerox, the augmented reality product. Augmented reality, putting experts on demand, is a big benefit to people that are building heat maps for service, regardless of what those products are. There's a strategy now, there's products now, software now, and solutions now that make it available to put expert on demand. That could change the world of service. Maybe that's what Dex is doing. Maybe that's what Flexprint's doing. But folks, I got to really question the strategy of building these IT services companies inside these print organizations unless you do it right. And so now I want to talk about some of the things that I think maybe we need to be doing a little bit better based on some of my experiences, based on some of the conversations I've had with people that are actually doing this successfully. And so let's jump on the Sharpboard. I want to share that with you. I have these buckets right here in the middle of my screen. And, you know, when I look at these buckets, these are some of the products and services that we could be taking into the marketplace. Unfortunately, I think a lot of our friends, maybe Marco and Visual Edge and UBO, are trying to take all these buckets and just cram them out in a marketplace. But I don't know if they really have a science and a detail about each bucket. How do we make revenue and profit off just this bucket? Can just this bucket be its own deliverable, as an example? Let's talk about the buckets. ICAST, you know, a lot of people doing ICAST, and they're getting a lot of commissions on that. Nothing wrong with that. Understand the revenue, understand the profit. How are you going to go into the market and make money? Who are you going to partner with? It's a clearly defined deliverable. MIT, this is the one that's just all over the place. Managed IT services. We got some crazy consultants talking to my friends in the print channel about how they're going to get 37% EBITDAs and all this crazy horse shit, and they're just been telling them the same stuff for the last 10 or 12 years. It seems to still be a big cluster mess. But managed IT services delivered correctly is its own damn deliverable. But it has to be upstream, and I keep talking about that. You can't be selling $2,000 and $3,000 a month service contracts. You got to be selling $10,000 and $15,000 and $20,000 and $25,000 a month service contracts. And to go with MIT, you have to have a fee-based assessment deliverable. A lot of people would say, well, shouldn't the fee-based assessment deliverable be in the same bucket as MIT? And I'm going to tell you no. Because fee-based assessments is its own damn deliverable. You're selling an assessment. You might be selling an assessment for cybersecurity, which is another bucket on its own. You might be selling an assessment for MIT. You might be selling an assessment for print, its own bucket. You might be doing assessments for compliance. You might have compliance officers on staff that can help you go into the marketplace and do $50,000, $100,000, $200,000 assessments as its own deliverable with its own P&L. Folks, anytime any of y'all say that you give away an assessment, I completely lose credibility with you as a real IT services provider. I'm just going to tell you that right up front. Anytime I hear people saying that we do assessments, but if they buy from us, we give them all their money back, I completely dismiss you as a serious player delivering upstream IT services. And folks, here's the reality. Delivering IT services to everybody and their brother, the model that everybody thought they could do like 10 or 15 years ago, obviously isn't working. I mean, it's apparently not working at Konica and Allcover, because if it was working, they'd share the numbers. It apparently wasn't working with Ricoh and Mindshift, because if it was working, they wouldn't have to do a $1 billion impairment charge. It's obviously not working with our friends at Marco. Otherwise, somebody would have gobbled that up. Holy crap, look at the value of these accounts. Look at the profit from these accounts. So isn't the answer logically you have to move upstream to make it work? That's what I'm thinking, folks. Look, cybersecurity, as I said, it's its own bucket. How do you make money off of that? Who do you partner with? You could be a cybersecurity organization delivering cybersecurity services, partnered with the right person, and not even be involved with IT services. It's its own deliverable. But who are the people in your organizations that are going to run it? Are you willing to pay for the human capital to deliver it? Are you willing to pay for the human capital to deliver these fee-based assessments? These are the changes that have to happen. Otherwise, you're not going to have any value. Here's the last bucket. It's a new bucket. It's an e-commerce bucket. E-commerce is its own damn deliverable. The good news for you is it takes very little bit of human capital to deal with it. It's a place where your customers can go and click buy now. E-commerce has to be a business model built by a business plan. E-commerce is not about a damn bottle of toner and encyclopedia. I've already done that video. E-commerce is about the ability for your customers to go to a place and procure things in the way they want to procure things by clicking buy now. Especially you huge organizations. I think about POA. How many thousands of customers do they have? These customers are going outside of POA buying all kinds of stuff. They're buying earphones, buying laptops. They're just buying stuff. Click, boom, buy now, buy now, buy now. But they're not giving that business to POA. Folks, you've got to have an e-commerce platform. Think about e-commerce, not for the customers that aren't yours. Don't think of being Amazon. Think about all your customers that you could direct to a place that they could buy things. Where you could build shopping carts for those organizations that they could buy things. They'll buy tens of thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars of things from you. If you partner with the right e-commerce platform. And yes, I will give my friend Norm McConaughey a plug. And yes, he is a sponsor and supporter at the end of the day with Ray. But he has a proven platform. It's not made up crap. It's not out there in beta. Hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars are being bought through the platform today. Folks, we got to get these e-commerce platforms put together and built. It has to happen quickly, sooner rather than later. The fact that I'm still asking you all to do this after 3 years almost into a global pandemic is a little bit mind-boggling. But ladies and gentlemen, I just want to end it with this. Our value for the organization is not from within the organization. That's the least amount of money we're going to get. I know there's some dealers out there selling, and you'll read in the NX magazine and the guy with a hat or whatever, they'll talk about what a great deal it was that so-and-so bought this company. Folks, I assure you, if you dug deep into those acquisitions, you're going to find out those were exits about people just evacuating the marketplace. I don't believe those were great big home runs. The only way we're going to make money in this industry is if the outsiders value us. Because theoretically, this industry, this place we all call home, those friends of mine that sell supply and service print equipment, is basically collapsed. And in a few short years, it won't even be recognizable. So the only value we're going to get, again, is from the outsiders. A lot to think about in today's episode, but folks, here's the reality. Get your buckets in line, whatever those buckets are, whatever you want to sell and deliver into the marketplace. Understand the revenue, understand the human capital, and understand how to make money off it. One last thing. I got down here a garbage can. Folks, let's have some fall cleaning. Start throwing away all these distractions that happened during this pandemic. Let me ask you all a couple of questions. How many people out there are still selling those thermostats? I remember when Konica came out talking about those thermostats, I did a video and I was pretty critical of it. Even got some slack. Oh, Ray, you don't know what you're talking about. These things are selling like crazy. Well, it turns out I probably didn't know what I was talking about because there ain't nobody selling them anymore. It was a one-off. It was a squirrel chase. We caught a squirrel. We thought it was going to be this big home run. And now we realize it's not. I think the same about electrical vehicle charging stations. And look, here's the reality. I give a great compliment to ACDI for going out and trying to find a product that they could deliver through a channel. I just question the channel being the print channel. They're really good at building channel distribution. Having dealers selling electrical vehicle charging stations, I believe, is a complete waste of time and a distraction. And it will never pan out to what it needs to pan out to help a dealer with the offset that they're going to lose from the collapse of print. And those $30,000 vacuum cleaners, I think it was Canon that came out with that $30,000 vacuum cleaner. Hope you all didn't fill up your warehouses with those. Folks, it's real simple. Move upstream. Sell assessments. understand the MIT deliverable, understand the right customer to sell it to, move upstream, build some value so those outsiders will come in and write you the big check. Because the outsiders are never going to write a check for something that's collapsing, that has a work in progress sitting on top of it. Nobody wants to buy a work in progress sitting on top of a disaster. Just some things to think about, my friends, because we all know this. Status quo is the killer of all that'll be invented. Don't get stuck in status quo, and I'll see you all tomorrow.